Welcome to the 3D Experience demo series. This video will cover the third chapter of the Collaboration and Approvals app and details the use and functionality of routes. The first point is to understand where routes fit into the project. This diagram was presented earlier in the project management demo and details the project schedule structure. Routes are defined as a set of tasks to accomplish a business activity with a focus on approvals. By including routes, we can update this structure to something more like this. Routes are placed after critical tasks to gain approval of the task before moving on to the next. This approval process is necessary when the task deliverables require the acceptance of multiple people or someone other than the task assignee. In this case, task 4 is considered critical as its deliverable must be approved before moving on to task 5. If it should fail this review, task 4 would have to be redone or edited before task 5 is started. In a similar fashion, tasks 3, 7, and 8 all produce final project deliverables. These must be accepted by the client and/or manager before the deliverable can be issued. So now that we understand where routes fit into the project, we create them from the Collaboration and Approvals Routes Summary page. Routes can be programmed to start immediately upon creation or at a later stage. Once the route is created, we need to attach the content to be reviewed. When adding content, note that you must indicate what lifecycle state the content must be in for the route to begin. For example, if the content is in the in-work stage and the route requires it to be in review, then the route will only start when the content is promoted to the in-review state. Note that the scope field in step 1 limits who may be assigned to the route in step 2. The assignees of the route are all the people or groups whose approval is needed. The accesses given to the assignees define what they are authorized to do to the route content. The tasks to be performed are fairly self-explanatory in that they are approve, comment, and notify only. Along with the task definition, a description giving more detail on what each assignee must do can be input, as well as due dates, while the order option defines the order in which tasks are to be performed. Giving multiple tasks the same order places them in parallel. In most cases, approvals for items such as final deliverables will have to go through the same people, same tasks, and same order. Therefore, making the route as a template can save time, as all but the route content can be replicated rather than redefined. We'll now go back to a 3D experience and demonstrate route creation. Routes are created on the Route Summary page, which is accessed by going to Collaboration and Approvals tab, Routes tab, and clicking Routes Summary. All three of these icons are used to create routes, but the most frequently used one will be the Routes wizard. This will bring up a new window which will walk us through the 4 steps of creating the route. Firstly, if we wish to create a route from a template, we can select the template field and click on Browse, but we will deal with this a little bit later on in the demo. For now, we'll start by inputting a description, which will be to approve the prelim chassis design models. Next, the route base purpose can be either standard, approval, or review. We'll leave ours as standard for the moment, as this gives us a few more options a little bit later on in the wizard. The scope option will limit who can be assigned to this route, which we will leave as all for the moment. We'll change the start route option to manual and leave the revert user groups to retain person assigned when restarting or resuming a route, as this will come in a little bit later in the demo. The next step is to attach applicable content, which we do using the plus icon. And for our example, we are going to review the prelim chassis design models, and so we are concerned with the prelim chassis design task. Select OK, and if we scroll down in our window, we'll see that this task now appears under the content section. The next important point is the state condition, as this will decide the lifecycle phase that the content must be in order for the route to be started. This is currently set to ready, which we will rather change to in review. and then click Next to move on to step 2. Here we define the root members, who are all the people whose approval must be gained in order for the task to be progressed. To add, we click on the Add People button and select the members as necessary. But before moving on to step 3, we must define the access for these members. As I was the one who created this route, I automatically have the add and remove access, which we'll assign to Junaid and Carlo as well. We move on by clicking Next. And in step 3, we define the root tasks. The first field we define is a title for the root task that the member will see, followed by the action they will perform on the content. In this case, we can leave it as approve, though other options would be approve, comment, and notify only. And order 1 means that this is the first task to be completed in the route. We can give further information by filling out the instructions field. We then move on to defining the due date for this approval. There are 2 options here. The first being a preset approval date that has no relation to previous tasks. And the second option is a duration from a certain point in time. For example, this would be due 1 day after the route start date. Further settings would be to allow the assignee to set the due date and to allow delegation. If ticked, this would allow the assigned member to delegate the approval to another member. Such a case could be a project manager assigning the approval to one of their subordinates. Moving on, we now define this information again for the second route task. At this point, take note of the order value for our 3 tasks. The first is defined as order 1, and so this is the first task that can be completed. Tasks 2 and 3 are both defined as order 2. They are therefore the second set that can be done and will be completed in parallel. Move on to step 4 by clicking Next. Our last step now requires us to define the action required for parallel tasks. The All option means that all members of parallel tasks must give their approval before the next order can be started, whereas the Any option means that only one member of a parallel group needs to approve the task before the next order can be started. For our case study, we will use the All option. We then finish our route creation by clicking on Done. 3D Experience will then open up the route space and show us the basic information for this route, as well as a graphical description of how far we are in the process. Furthermore, we can check the content, members, and discussions under the respective tabs. Going back to the Content tab, this page will show us a list of all the content associated with this route. In our case, it only shows the prelim design chassis task. Looking over to the right, we see over here a column indicating the lifecycle state of the content. At this stage, our task is in the ready state, but in order for the route to be started, it must be in the review state. Therefore, if we go back to the Properties section and attempt to start the route, 3D Experience will give us a warning indicating that we cannot start the route yet until this state has been upgraded into the review state. The last step in our creation process is to create a route template if necessary. We do this by clicking on the Create Template icon and filling out the information as requested. Define the availability of the template. The user option will only allow me to use this template. Enterprise will allow anyone in the company to use the template. And Workspace or Project Space will allow any members of this project to reuse the template. Route task edits will control what can be modified on the template. And unchecking task assignees will allow any other member to be assigned to each of these approvals tasks. Finish off by clicking OK. And with that, we are done with our basic route creation. We'll now go back to our presentation and define the steps used in order to execute this route. By this point, we have created the route, assigned the important people, and defined the task that each must complete. We now move on to executing these tasks and managing the route. Once active, routes will appear on the assigned members tasks page. They may also go to routes summary on the left panel to view all started as well as the upcoming routes. Managing and completing tasks was covered in more detail in the project execution app. Depending on the situation, routes can be started immediately after creation, manually started, or automatically started when the content reaches the required lifecycle state. When the route begins, the assignees in order 1 will receive a notification email and the route task will appear in their collaboration as well as project execution homepages. In the second demo, covering the dashboard and platform navigation, I placed the collaborative task widget on my dashboard, and so the routes would also appear there. Once the route has been started, the task will appear in the respective member's task page. Order 2 tasks will not appear until the Order 1 tasks have been completed. Opening the route task can be done by clicking on the route item. You can also go to the task by clicking on the red box icon under the page title in the upper right. Approving tasks requires the comments to be edited first. This is done from the Action menu and clicking Edit Details. Only then can a task be approved. Abstaining is only possible if the task was set as optional when the route was created, but still follows the requirement of adding comments before selecting the Abstain button. Abstaining does not cancel the route, it simply ignores the abstain task and moves on. Rejecting tasks has the same process as accepting or abstaining, but once rejected, the route is cancelled and all other tasks, whether accepted, abstained, or yet to be completed, are now irrelevant. All members of the route then receive notifications that the route failed and will have to be restarted. In this situation, the reviewed task or deliverable must be updated, and once this is done, the route can be restarted. Once rejected, the route is not immediately restarted, and so will not appear on members' task pages. When necessary, the route is to be restarted from the routes summary page or the route space page. From here, the process begins again and all approvals must be reacquired. We will now do a demonstration of completing routes. Beginning at the Collaboration and Approvals task page, we can see that at this point I have got 2 tasks assigned to me. The first being the prelim chassis design and the second the main chassis modeling, both of which are in the ready state. The route that we created earlier in this video is not displayed because it has not yet been started and cannot be started until the preliminary chassis design is moved into the in-review state. To do this, we will go back to the project execution app that was detailed in a previous demo. From here, click on the Edit button and update the percentage complete to 100%. And the lifecycle state is automatically promoted to in review. Click on Save and return to the Collaboration and Approvals page. Now that our content is in the correct lifecycle state, we can go to the routes summary page to start our route, which we do by selecting the route and clicking on the Start button. At this point, members with Order 1 tasks will receive email notifications informing them of the starting of the route. And if we now return to the task page, the route task now appears. To open the route task, click on its item. This opens up the route page, and from here we can approve, reject, or abstain from the task, as well as delegate other assignees. First of all, if the Allow Delegation item was ticked when we created the route, we can go to the Action button and change the assignee. On the right-hand side, we can then go to Browse to select a new assignee, and then enter any comments related to the reassignment. For the purpose of our demo, we won't continue this line of inquiry and simply say cancel for the moment. We now have three choices moving forward. The first being to approve the task, which is done with the Approve button, and inputting any comments related to the approval. We then click on Approve, and by doing so, we complete the route task. In this case, there is only one task in Order 1, and so by completing this, we now move on to the Order 2 tasks. The members associated with the Order 2 tasks will now receive emails that the task is ready to be completed. They must then complete the same process in order to approve their task. For our demo, we will instead backtrack and investigate the abstain and reject options as well. Abstaining, shown by this button here, works in exactly the same manner as approve, and so for brevity, we won't demonstrate this again. Moving on to the rejection option, clicking will give us exactly the same pop-up window, which we can fill out as so, and we move forward by clicking on Reject. At this point, email notifications will once again be sent to the route members, informing them that the route has been rejected and must now be restarted. From a business point of view, we would now demote the prelim chassis design task from in review back to in work and make the necessary changes to prepare it for a second approval attempt. Once complete, we can restart the route in the same manner that we started it originally. Go to Collaboration and Approvals, Routes Summary category, again select the route, and click on Start or Resume. Email notifications will again be sent out, and we start our approval process all over again. With that, we are now finished with routes, and we'll go back to our presentation to finish off the video. In summary, we have created and assigned the route and route tasks, and members have completed their tasks with the Approve, Abstain, or Reject options. That will conclude the demo on the Collaboration and Approvals app.